Yeah, so as usual, we're gonna take like 1 or 2 minutes to just let people join. In the meantime, I'll do the classical housekeeping that we'll always do in the beginning of this session. So just want to remind people that we have 2 sessions every week. We have one on Mondays today at 4 p.m. Central European Time, where we do a one-on-one onboarding session and look at the UI of our platform, how you can share projects, and how you create your first image and video editing nodes. Then we'll go in and take a bit more look at how to work with text and things like that. I'll try to leave around 10 minutes at the end for questions as well. And then on Thursdays, we do an office called Office Hours. Office Hours is also at 4 p.m. Central European Time, but on Thursdays. This session is a little bit more advanced, but there's nothing to be afraid of if you're a new user in Weavy. What usually happens is that I'll share a workflow that I have been working with the last week, and then we'll go ahead and let other users ask questions, or they can share their screen, and if they have any troubles with any of their workflows, we can live troubleshoot it, try to push the platform, and also test out new things that you want us to try live. So it's a really good way to learn, but it's also really fun just to play around with the platform together. So please join that as well. In this session, which is good to keep in mind, is that we are recording these sessions because we are reposting them in the channels. We had some problems last week with the audio, but we're trying to find the files for that as well. So hopefully we can upload last week's sessions as well. But definitely this week we're gonna reshare this recording from this session and also on Thursday. This also means that if you have any questions, keep in mind that you are being recorded, just to make sure that you're comfortable with that. And these videos will then be reposted in our Discord channel called Weavy Live. That is really good for people, that are asleep at these times and things like that. So, without further ado, let's start this session. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if you are new to Discord, you can see that another window popped up on the left side of the video of me. So if you double click that, it's going to become a little bit larger and you can see what I'm screen sharing. Yes. So this is what our dashboard looks like in Weavy. On the left side, you have a menu where you can see your name and you can see if you have multiple workspaces, that's going to show up here. You can see what plan you have, your settings. If you are part of a team, you can see the other members, things like that. In My Files, you can add all the workflows that you want to keep private. So any workflow that you add from this folder is going to remain private until you press the share button and send it to somebody. If under shared with me are going to be the workflows that people send you links from. I currently don't have any, so it's grayed over for me. In the workspace files, this is if you're part of an organization. So if you're part of an organization or you're working with clients, you will have a shared workspace. To get that, you have to be on the team or the enterprise plan. In the workspace files, every file that you share here can be accessed by everybody that is in the workspace. So they are not private anymore. And on the bottom, we have a link to Discord and things like that. On the top here, you can see that we have the workflow library. We try to add examples, when there's new models or new nodes out, and we're going to keep building on this library so it becomes more extensive and with more examples. But this is a great way to learn. So if you press one, you can open it up. You can take a look at what models we work with, how we work with them, but also you can just copy and paste part of the workflow and paste it into your workflow. We also have the tutorials tab that starts from very easy and goes to more advanced topics. Yes. So the way you create a file, so let's do a new one. You can create a file up to the right, up to the left, or you can right click in the canvas and you can press new file. First time you open a new file, it's gonna ask you if you want to do a tutorial. We're not gonna do that. Then up to the left, you can rename it. So I'm gonna rename it First Steps. And then on the left side, you'll see a menu. And if you press here, you can go back to files, you can create a new one, duplicate it. We also have a few preferences. If you click any of these symbols right here, a menu is going to pop out to the right. In this menu, this is where we have all our nodes. So if you scroll up and down, you can scroll between the different categories, or you could also just press the different buttons. It's the same kind of functionality. At the top, we got the quick access nodes, which are going to be updated dependent on which you use the most. We got a toolbox with image and video editing nodes, like the levels node, for example. We have map tools, we have text tools, a couple of iterators, helpers, data types, and then we come to the image models. In the image and video models, we try to bundle them together by categories. So first we have the one that you can generate from text only if you want. And then we got the ones that can generate vector graphics. We get to the famous image editors like Rev or Nano Banana. And then we'll get to the enhancers, so the upscalers and sharpeners. Then we do the same things with the video models, so the ones that start from text. And then further down, we have the video editors that you can actually edit videos with. We have a few lip sync models, video enhancers, a couple of 3D models, and then you come to the community models. The community models is something we're gonna cover later in this session. And down here on the left side, you have assets. So every asset that is generated in this canvas is gonna show up here, also imported. The question mark here is really important. This is very nice. If you press on help, you have our help desk and the FAQs. And if you don't find your answers there, you can send us a direct message. And this is not like an AI that you're talking to. This is actually the team. And we try to answer within 1 or 2 hours as often as we can. Sometimes if we're all asleep, because we're currently, most of us is based in Europe and the Middle East, we might be sleeping. So just keep that in mind if you're waiting for a response. We got a little menu here where you can choose between drag or mark, an undo and redo button, and an opacity, but I usually just use my mouse scroll or my touchpad. And that's pretty much it for the menus. So, something that is nice here is that in the menu on the left side, you could just take any node you want and you can just drag it out. So let's say that maybe we want to do a text prompt. We can take this text prompt and just drag it in. What you also can do is that you can right click with your mouse in the canvas, and that's going to bring up this little menu where you can find the same things that you see on the left, or you can search. So maybe you want to add like a fast model, so you can also populate them like this. There's absolutely no difference there. What you also can do in the menu on the left side is that you can search. So if you search for Nano Banana, that is going to show up. What is also neat is that you can see this little input and output button. If you press the input, you can choose which kind of input you want. So maybe you want to find a model that is using a mask input. Then you can press mask. And then for output, you might want to do image. So here we have the image models that have a mask input. So if we drag in ideogram version 3, you can see that it differs a bit from Google Image and Fast. It has a mask input, for example. You can see that on the right side of the nodes, they have what we call outputs. That is usually a text, an image, a video, an audio, or a 3D file. For inputs on the left side of the nodes, these can vary a lot more. You can see that ideogram here has a lot more alternatives than Google Image and 3 Fast. The reason for this is because there's no set standard within the industry right now of how the vendors of these models build their models. And we as Weavy, we try to make a very comfortable platform that feels easy to use, but we also don't want to take away any of the controls for our users. So that's why these have different inputs. You can see that some of them have stars over them and some don't. The ones with stars are the ones that you have to use to be able to even run the model. So right now nothing is connected, so if I do run, it's gonna give me a warning because it needs at least these two. So that is good to keep in mind. Let's delete this one. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the menus. And now we're gonna go ahead and create our first image. So you can see that we have already added a text prompt and an image model. What I'll do then is that I'll drag out from the output of the text node and I'll add it. It's going to snap to them, but I'm going to add it to the prompt. What you can also do, which is a nice feature, is that if you drag out from a text node or any node and release the node out into the canvas, this menu with suggestions is going to show up. All these suggestions in this menu are going to be guaranteed to work with the text prompt node, and because that's the one that we dragged out from. So now we have connected the text prompt with this Google Image and Fast. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to write giraffe. And then when I mark this image model here, you can see that this menu on the right side pop up. In this menu, you got some more settings. Overall, the settings are usually good to go if you just want to play around and play with the platform. But once you get into more advanced generations, you might want to start changing the different settings. And each image and video model has different settings. In this example, I'm going to change the aspect ratio, and then I am going to run this. So I'm going to run this model, and you can see that a percentage comes up that is going to tell you how long the generation has gotten. This is a very fast model, so it very quickly is finished. Perfect, so we got our first giraffe. And then what we're gonna do now is that we are gonna make multiple giraffes. So if you press down on the right side here, you can see that if I increase the runs, you can make multiple runs. You can also see up here that running Google Imagen 3 fast is gonna cost you 3 credits to run it once. But because I added it to 5, it does a total calculation of all of them. So running this model 5 times is going to cost me 15 credits. On the top, you can see the total amount of credits. And then I'm going to do run selected. Now you can see that it's trying to create 5 different images. Cool. So now if you hover over this image, you can see that this little pagination menu shows up so that you can swap between the different photos of all the 6 giraffes that we have. You can also see the resolution down here on the left side. Up on the right side, we have this little enlarged symbol. So if you press that, you're going to enlarge the image, and you can also copy and download it from here. But what is really neat is this little I button. If you press that, you can see exactly what settings was used to generate this image. Even the prompt. So sometimes I go back in the history and I maybe copy the prompt that I used to generate another image. You can press S or this X to come out again. If you press this little 3-dot menu, you can also duplicate it, delete it, you can lock it so you can't move it, for example. You unlock by pressing the lock. You can also download current, download all, remove them, and you can also change between single view and grid view. So if you open it in grid view, you can see all the images of the giraffes, and you can move around like this. I'm going to go back to, actually, I'm going to keep it in grid view. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to start removing a few images. So if you press this little 3-dotted menu, you can see that we have remove current and remove all other. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start by removing all other. And what that is going to do is that it deletes all but the one that I had currently marked. And then if you do remove current, then that one is going to disappear as well. So now we have no giraffes left. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, we're all excited about the grid view. Cool. So let's make 5 more giraffes. I'm gonna run it again. And what we're gonna take a look at next is how you share. So up on the right side, you can press the share button. And here it works kind of like Google's workspaces, so you can choose what kind of access you want to give. What I usually do is that I give anyone with the link the view. I copy the link and I send it to some of my friends. And where it will show up is here under shared with me. Is where it will show up in their workspace. Cool, so we got a couple of giraffes again. Let's go back to single view grid. And that is pretty much for how you work with images. You can see that this one has a negative prompt. Advice is to usually don't work too much with negative prompts, focus on what you want to create instead. But if there is something you want to avoid, some image models has a negative prompt. So if I add another text input here and add it to the negative prompt, and if I want to avoid potentially like cartoon style, then you just write cartoon, and the image model is going to use that as a negative prompt to avoid a cartoon style. So let's create our first video. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to drag out from the image and release it out into the canvas. And then we're going to scroll down to the different video models. So here we got them. So let's do LTX2 video. And that is going to create this LTX2 video prompt. And I've attached my image as a first frame. And I'm going to try to run the model. And it's going to warn me because this is an expensive one. But I can't because it also needs a text prompt. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to add this prompt over here. So you can just drag it from here and attach it like that. But I think it becomes very disorganized and ugly with all these prompts behind it. So what I will do is that I'm going to go ahead and search for router. The router is a nice little node and that is mostly used for organizational purposes. So if I add this text here in the input, the same text is going to come out as the output. So now you can see that I avoided some node spaghetti here in the back of this image. The other nice thing about the router node is that if you have multiple images, so I'm going to copy this LTX2 video, and I'm going to copy it twice, I'm going to copy it 3 times and 4 times. And if I would like to add this text to all 4 of them, I can just apply all 4 of them, of course. But if you do it through a router, so if you hook up this router to all these nodes, instead of, if I create another text prompt where I say something else, I'm saying something like a bear, and I want to change all these 4 to work with a bear instead of a giraffe, then instead of adding this 4 times to each of them, I can just apply it 1 time to the router because it's already attached, which is nice. So we're gonna change back to the giraffe. We're gonna get rid of the bear. And now we have attached this router to all 4 of them. Let's get rid of the 3 extra ones. They're just unnecessary for now. And then I'll mark LTX2 video. And you can see that we have some different settings here. We're just gonna use the fast model. We're just gonna do a few frames because it's quicker to generate. Keep it to 6 seconds. And this looks like it is already 16.9. So it's gonna cost me 100 credits. So let's run 3 different videos and it starts, which works pretty much exactly like with the images. Videos can take a little bit longer than images because it's just so many frames. So while it's doing that, let's take a look at how we work with text in Weavy. So one of the most powerful nodes is a text node called the AnyLLM node. If you search for the AnyLLM node and then you add it to your workflow, this is the model that holds all the different text models. So we have GPT and Gemini and Claude and whatever you want to do. And this one can do any kind of work that a regular ChatGPT can do in their own models. Oh, here we got our little videos. So let's take a look. So let's take a look at one of the videos. Nice. And what you can then do is that you can also go to full screen and you can look at the same video there, but let's change the video first. So let's go to this first one in the full screen. They're of course very similar because we're using the same inputted image. And the same things can happen here. So, you can do full screen, you can turn off the sound, and you can, of course, download and remove and things like that. You can also put them in grid view like this. So that's how you create your first video. Let's go back to text. So the NeLLM node, we got it here. And the way we work with it is that we can give it different instructions. So I'm going to add a prompt. And I am going to say, tell me a short story about a giraffe. And then I add it to the prompt here. And we're going to run that, and it's pretty quickly going to give me a short story about a giraffe, like you can see here. Then we have something called a system prompt. In the system prompt, which you just create by adding another prompt and attaching it, this is where we usually give the GPT a personality and we tell it how to work with structure. So what I often say is I say something like, you're a world-class art director and your structure for the prompt should start with an asterisk and it needs to be below 500 words or something like that. For this example, let's do something stupid. So I'm just saying, write the prompt in all caps. And if we run this again, we should get another story about a giraffe, but this time in all caps. So that's how you get different kind of texts. If it's a really long text, you can press show more and it should go up and down. And this text can then be used for another image model. So maybe you search for fast again, and we'll do this, and we add this and run it again, and it's going to give us an image from this text. So how can we start building on this? Oh, so this is a little bit of a more descriptive image of a giraffe. Cool. And then let's take a look at some of the more of the text nodes. So we have a node called the prompt concatenator. So if I search for prompt, and then we can add multiple prompts here. So you can see that it has inputs. So if I tell me a short story about a giraffe, I can add it there, then it's going to show up here. And then maybe I'll add a second prompt like that says the giraffe is very tall, and add it. You can see that it's gonna put it into one long string in one long prompt. You can also add multiple inputs here, and you can also add something here at the end. So maybe you want to add something like a video instruction that says camera dolly out, and then it's all gonna be in one prompt. So this is great for building systems when you work with text, where some of the text might come from one part of the workflow and the other part might come from below, but they all merge together later on in the workflow. So that's very handy for working with text. Let's move this to the side a little bit. And what is also nice about this NeLLM node is that it can actually analyze images for you. So if we move it to the side and we add this image of this giraffe here, and we can add multiple image inputs. So if you want to add multiple images, any LLM can come up and describe the overall style of multiple images. In this example, I'm gonna change the prompt to describe what is in the image. And then I'll add it here and I run the model. And hopefully it's gonna give me a description of this giraffe. So it says the image shows a close-up of a giraffe's head. Perfect. Still in all caps because I still have my system prompt attached, which is wonderful. So you can do any kind of more advanced instructions here. What you could also do is that you can use the image describer that works exactly like this. The image describer is pretty much an NLLM node where we have already set up the prompts for you. So if you just attach this giraffe here and run it, we should get a very similar result to what we just did in the LLM node. So a close-up of a giraffe's head. Perfect. The instructions for the image describer is here on the right side. So, you know, if you wish, you can actually change this. So now you can see that I get a pretty short description. If I change this to 2,000 characters and run it again, then this prompt will be longer. You can also change the model, and maybe you go crazy. So maybe you go 20,000 characters and then you run it again, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, here you got a much longer prompt and you can scroll up and down. Perfect. Let's see, let's go to the menu on the left side. Let's see if there's any text nodes that we're missing. So we have the prompt enhancer. So let's say that maybe I have this prompt over here. So let's get rid of the prompt concatenator, and the giraffe is very tall. So here it just says, tell me a very short story about a giraffe. What you could do is that you can add the prompt enhancer, and the prompt enhancer is going to try to write a better prompt for you that is going to do a better job for working with image and video models. So you don't have to do all the prompting yourself. These models can also help you improve on your prompts. There's an image describer. There's also a video describer that works in the same way, but for videos. And the last part about text is the text iterator. So the text iterator is a nice little tool. So if we drag it in here, and then we'll, you can either add multiple items right here. So if we do dog, we do cat and giraffe, and then we'll add this to an image model and we attach it. And then if you only press once, you can see that it's automatically going to calculate it to 9 credits, even though this model is only 3. And that's because it's understanding that it's attached to a text iterator that is going to run 3 different texts. So if we run this, we're going to get one image with a dog, one with a cat, and one with a giraffe. Super nice, dog, cat, and giraffe. This is nice. What you can also do is that, you know, you could, maybe you have a prompt that is coming in with a long list of things. And maybe you have asked, so let's say we do a list of cat, dog, giraffe, bear, and bird. And then we add this text prompt to this text iterator. And then you can split this text by a symbol. So now you can see that it is splitting it by the comma, and we get all these split up as different text items. But you can change the symbol to the asterisk or really whatever you want to do. So that if I run this again, let's start by deleting the first ones. So I'm going to remove all, confirm, then I'm going to run this model. You can see that it's going to cost me 15 credits, and we should get 1 each of each animal. There we go. So if we go to grid view, you can see that we have a cat, a dog, giraffe, bear, and a bird. Perfect. Yes, that is that. If you want to do that a little bit differently, you can also use the array node. So if you search for array, you can do the same thing here. So it works similarly to the text iterator, But the text iterator is automatically going to run all these options in one go. But with the array node, it works a little bit differently. So what you have to do is that you add a list selector, and then you can add this here. And then in the list, you can choose one of them. So maybe we'll do a dog, and then we're gonna copy it and create 3 different ones. So maybe we'll do the dog, and then we're gonna do the bear, and we're gonna do the bird. And these ones you can break into different images. So if we add another fast and we copy it 3 times, you can put them next to each other like this, and you'll attach 1 to each one of them. So we'll mark them like this. And then if you want to run them one by one, you can do that. Or if you mark all of them, you can see that they all show up here with a total calculation. And we're going to do run selected, and then we'll get 1 each. So it's a little bit of a different functionality between the text iterator and the array, but they have some similar functionalities as well. So here we got a bird, we got a dog, and a bear. Awesome. Let's see, what other tools should we look at? Yeah, so we have this image iterator where you can upload multiple images. And so you can upload 100 images, and then with just one go, you can just run that through a full workflow. But I want to make sure that we cover a tool called a compositor. So I'm gonna go up here to the toolbox, and I'm gonna drag out a compositor. And the compositor is a node where you can layer things together. You can do blend modes, text edits, and transformations of images. And you can layer it all together, and it all comes out as one image or video. So I'm gonna start adding multiple things here. So I'll start by adding the bear, and then I'm gonna add the dog, and you can press here to add multiple layers. So let's also add some text in there. So maybe we'll use a new text, or maybe we'll take this list here. So we'll do the dog, and then if you press edit here, it's gonna open up the compositor. In here you can change the dimensions, and you can move different layers around. So if we move this behind it, we can choose which one is first. So let's change the size of this dog. Let's make it smaller. And then, you can rotate it, and you can do some simple transformations. You can also change the blend mode. So if you want to do this, maybe we'll do like a screen. And then we have the text layer up here that where you can change the font. You can upload custom fonts if you're on the Pro plan or better. You can change different kind of weights and styles and things like that. You can also do alignment, so maybe we want to put it in the middle. Let's make it white, something like that. So there we go. And you don't need to save anything. You just X out of it, and that is it. So then you have this image, and then you can use this to maybe do a nano banana or something like that, where you say something like a bear on its back feet or something like that. And you can edit it from there and run it. So that's a super powerful tool for layering things together, works with text, and do some simple transformations. Let's see what else we have. Here we got the dog on its back, and it's filtered out the text in the dog because I didn't talk about it in the text prompt. Okay, let's see if there's something important that we are missing. Yeah, let's talk about 3D. So we also have a couple of 3D models. So what I will do is that I will search for output, and I will search for 3D. And then we got a couple of 3D models. And I'm gonna drag in, and maybe we'll do Rodin version 2. And here I'm gonna add this bear, and it has a bunch of different settings, but the first one should be fine, and it can create different kind of formats for you. So if you want like an OBJ or something, but we're gonna stay with the GLB. And this is gonna create a 3D model from an image input. And you can add multiple image inputs, and maybe you take a photo of the bear from 4 different angles, and then the mesh generated in 3D is gonna be more precise than if you only do one image. So this is very cool for working with 3D. 3D is often something I also use for guidance. So one example that I often show is this example. So to achieve this specific placement and angle of this bird, I actually used 3D to guide stable diffusion instead of trying to achieve it only with text prompt and image inputs. So what I do here in the beginning is that I started by generating these 2 different images, so some background traffic lights, and I did a couple of variations of birds. I took my favorite bird, added it to Rodin 3D, and then instead of downloading it, what I do is that I added the 3D model together with the background onto the compositor node. And if I change my bird's position or camera angle, it's going to change in real time in the compositor as well, which makes it super handy for really tweaking in a perfect angle of this little birdie instead of doing that through text. And then I use this juxtaposition from the compositor to guide an image model. And the image model is going to do a good job of keeping the position, the structure, and the camera angle of the inputted image. So that's how we can take the control back over the image models. In the last step, I just added it to a video model and told it to look scared for a car horn or something similar like that. Let's go back to our file. So Rodin is only at 50%, so 3D can take a little while. So let's see, I think we covered most of the important things. So I'm gonna take a minute and just look at some of the mask options that we have. So we have a mask extractor, for example. So if you add the mask extractor and add an image to it, you can see that it recognizes different structures in images. So here in mask mode, you can see the difference between the bear and the background, but you can also see it here in image mode. So if you hold shift, you can mask multiple things, but let's only do the bear for this example. So you could do that, or you could add a mask by text. So we'll add the bear again. And in the instructions, we're telling it to mask the bear. And then we run the model, and hopefully we get a good result. So we got a good result of the bear as well. We also have a merge alpha. So if we drag in the merge alpha here, for input, you want to do the original image. So I'm going to add my bear. And then for mask, I'm going to use the mask from this mask extractor. And that is then going to get rid of the background because it's only going to keep what's in the mask. There's also a video mask tool called Video Mat that is good to work with. And I think those are pretty much most of the important tools. One tool that I work with quite a lot is the painter. So if I drag in the painter, you can add this image here, and maybe you want to do some refinements to this mask. So you can paint with any kind of color you want, or black, or you could use this one. You can increase the size, and then you can start making edits. Actually, let's paint with black. So if we paint over here, we can get rid of the legs of the bear or something like that. And then maybe we do another merge alpha where we add this as the mask, and then we'll add this image in again. And that is weird. That is a bug. Why is that happening? Interesting. Let's see what happens if we add this. And if we add this, it looks correct. If if we add this, it looks correct. But if we do it from the painter node, I think we found a bug that I'm going to report to my team. Maybe we can use this. Yeah, that was better. So I think you understand how the mask tools work. Perfect. Let's see. Extract video frame. We could also take a quick look at. So here we got this video from this LTX video. I'm going to extract the frame and add a video here. And then you can extract any frame you want. So if we add a preview node, and we'll add this here to it, you can see that we'll save that in a specific frame. So maybe we want it when it's opening its mouth, like that, or something like that. And preview node is simply for previewing images in case you need that, or maybe a mask or something like that. Cool. That's pretty much it for how you work with Weavy. So let's take a look and see if there are any questions. I see that there are some questions in the chat that I will take a look at, but also if you want to come up on stage, you can request to speak, and I'll let you up on stage and we can have a live conversation as well. Okay, so Tommy is saying, got 2 questions. Is there a way to refer or name a character so that the back end will always know I am referring to a specific character? So if the character is known online, yeah, then the text node is gonna know the reference, but you cannot create your own character and name it. What you can do is that you can train a LoRa. So in Weavy, you can work with all types of LoRas, but you don't train them in Weavy. So what you do is that you go to something like FAL AI or something like replicate.com. And if you go to trainings or search for maybe like Flux LoRa. And we got the Flux Dev LoRa. And here you can train your own LoRas. And what you can do is that, let's see, I haven't seen this LoRa specifically before. So some LoRas you can actually refer to. Yes, so you can use this. This one is using a string here to refer to. So if you train a LoRa on a specific character, then you can save that with a keyword. And then when you're in Weavy, what you do is that you search for import LoRa. And here you can just upload the tensor file. And then you can actually refer to that keyword. You can also do import multiple LoRas. And in here you can add a LoRa and you can save the trigger word. But it has to be also trained with the trigger word. And then you can actually use that trigger word with the LoRa. Can the text iterator also be used to format and export specific formats? It can definitely do different formats. So whatever you tell them in the system prompt here, it's going to format. So if you put in a JSON example and tell it to follow the JSON example, it's going to do a very good job of keeping that. But you cannot export it in different kind of formats. We don't have that alternative quite yet. Eventually, we're going to add more functionalities for exporting different formats as well. Let's just finish Tommy's question. So I saw the LoRa training video by Ty, wondering if there's a different way to do this with a text prompt somehow or a prompt concat. No, there's no way to like train it to remember. But if you keep referencing something in a text, then that reference is going to be reminded in the cascading network. But it's not like you can just come up with a specific character's name and it's going to remember what that looks like, because there's no connection between the text and the image. There's no memory to that kind of sense. So the only way you can do is work with LoRa's, to my knowledge. Okay, let's take a look at Sean's question. Weavy is working well. Something that I ran into the other day with one of the video models in a project, maybe Rev, would be to have a character account or a character limit indication on models that have a unique character input limit. Let me read that again. I didn't even know, is there a character limit to Rev? Is that what you're saying, Sean? Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, that would be something to be good to have. I'm just not sure how many models have that kind of setting. So I'm not sure if it would be very unique to Rev or not, but that is definitely something that could be looked at. Oh, you're talking about characters in the terms of text. I thought you meant like characters like three faces tops or something like that. Got it. Yes, most models have some sort of character count. And that, I think that actually some models do have that information. It depends a little bit about how they built their external API, but we could of course add that manually as well. Let's see. You could add the LoRa keyword as a separate prompt with a concatenator. Yes, exactly. So you could add the keyword in a prompt concatenator. Yes. So, but the thing is that the text that uses that word has to be a LoRa model, right? So if you search for LoRa, it would have to be something like this one where you actually apply the LoRa, and then you can use it with the trigger word. So let's call it trigger word with a 0. And then you can add this here, and then you could reference the character in the LoRa. But you could of course do like a cascading system here, as long as it has the trigger word and inputting in the LoRa. It won't work with another image model that can't work with LoRa's, for example. Cool. Any last questions? We are already out of time, but I'm happy to stay for another question if anything comes up. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the output node, Sean? What the question is? Yeah, I can definitely walk through the output node. So what the output node does is if you you can build a, oh, here's our crazy workflow in Weavy. And you can build how crazy of a workflow you want, but maybe you have a colleague, a friend, or a client that is not comfortable looking at the node-based environment. What you can then do is that you can add an output node. So if you add the output node, and then you attach it to an image or a video or something like that, that is going to create an app version of your canvas. So up here, you can see that a menu popped up that says Canvas and App. And if you press the app, you can see that another interface shows up without any nodes. So here the users can still run your workflow, and they can do changes to the prompts here that you choose to highlight to them. And you can choose to hide them or not for them, where they can then change it. So here it's saying giraffe, so let me change this to dog. And then I'm gonna run it, and they can run it from here. And then they can run your workflow, and where you put that output node, that is what is then gonna be outputted here. So then they can download it from here, and they never have to take a look at your node-based environment. So it's very handy for collaborating with clients and things like that. Multiple users can also work in the same app at the same time, which is nice, which is something they can't do in the canvas. In the canvas, you can only be one user at a time, but in app mode, you can have multiple users. So here we got our dog. Maybe we want to download it, and you can download it to your computer and go from there. You can also share your workflow and things like that. but does that affect the entire workflow? So I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So this is, you can put the outputs wherever you want. So if you put it here, you would also get an output of the video, and you can add it here, and that will give you a bear. So if you go back here and run it one more time, we're gonna get multiple images because, or maybe like a video, so that you can have, you see, we have the bears, and then we also asked for a video that should probably show up here in a little while. So it's really flexible. You can really put outputs wherever you want and run the workflow from there. So as long as the workflow is attached to where the output ends, then the beginning of that workflow is going to end. So for example, these are not going to run because they're not part of a flow with an output. But all these ones are, because they lead to this output. So that's how it's trickling down. Does Weavy have a text doc or link that breaks down what each node is for or what it does? So instead of watching videos, is there something contextual that you can read through? Yes. So what you can do is that you can go to Weavy and you can go to our help center. And it is help.weavy.ai.en if you want it in English. I'll post it in the chat. And here we have FAQs and account management. What you're asking for specifically is the nodes and model documentation. And here you can go and take a look at different kind of tools. So maybe you go into a text tool, and here you have descriptions for the prompt node, for example. Let's see. Cool. I think those are all the questions, and I'm also running out of time. So I have to stop this stream. But this has been great. And as always, we do 2 sessions. So one's on Mondays, which is this one at 4 p.m. That is onboarding with some easier questions. And on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central European time at 4. I'm not sure if I said that. We have office hours where you can ask for help and we can troubleshoot your workflow, and you will get into some more advanced topics. We'll record both of these sessions so that you can also rewatch them in the Weavy sub-channel called Weavy Live. Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you on Thursday. Thank you.